The readings in today's Mass, that of the third Sunday in Advent, are interlinked by God's thoughts on attitude and behaviour. The readings are also the third set of signposts on the Advent way, pointing us towards Christmas. The reason for these seasonal thoughts and reflections. Inspiring a prophet called Zephaniah almost 3,000 years ago, God wanted those who followed his words and teachings to be happy, to sing and to rejoice. This was in a time when the people of Israel were surrounded by enemies, and yet God did not want those who loved him to fear in any way. His words were also a prophetic glance at a future where the world unites and turns to listen to his word, where his word rules the hearts and minds of men. In the responsorial psalm, taken from the prophet Isaiah, God's words are an urging to trust him and again not to be afraid. God's words are water from the wells of salvation. In the land of Israel, renowned for its climatic dryness, desert landscapes and its lack of water, in ancient times a well was essential for survival. God's words have meaning. He was offering not a quenching of a physical thirst, but the satisfying of a much deeper spiritual thirst that was and is the protection, nourishment, and ultimate well-being of one's own soul. Nowadays, as never before in the history of man, have young and old been so surrounded and gifted with such an array of material and technological things. Yet, these do not satisfy the wants or yearnings, the thirst of any spiritual soul. St. Paul repeats these words spoken by the prophets, urging the first Christian community in Europe at Philippi to rejoice at the closeness of God and not to fear. He goes on to make a most beautiful statement to that early Christian community. The peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. St. Luke in his Gospel continues the thought on our attitudes and behaviours in reminding us that crowds went to John the Baptist, not asking for material things because John the Baptist had none of these, but asking questions containing a spiritual and moral element, and the question was, what should we do? A simple question on the surface, but one which had a personal, moral, or spiritual answer for each of the groups in the crowd. John the Baptist replies with suggestions on practical charity, honesty, and satisfaction. To the crowd he says to share their belongings and food with the needy. To the self-employed tax collectors, never really accepted in polite Jewish society of the time, and who collected taxes on a commission basis, he says to collect what is right and no more. To the weekly paid soldiers, he says not to threaten anyone and to be satisfied with their weekly wages. In what he says, John the Baptist is no firebrand or raving lunatic living on the fringes of society. He has a feel for those hungry and without. He has a feel for those who are being taxed to the limit, and he has a feel for those who cannot make ends meet on a weekly basis. Not that bad for a guy at home in the desert, dressed in skins and living on wild locusts. In all of this, has anything changed in 2,000 years? Inspired by God's love, we have a moral obligation to help those in need, to live in society by its civil norms, rules and regulations, however annoying some of these may be to us. We have a moral obligation to pay our debts, be they bills of a weekly nature or of a more serious nature, bills of gratitude to parents and family who have made us what we are, to those who work invisibly on our behalf in society, and to the unnamed who protect us day and night. John the Baptist, having said what he had to say specifically to the crowds, then proclaimed the good news to the crowds that someone more powerful than he was coming. The message of Advent is the very same as his. Jesus is coming. Christmas is near. Are we ready for the coming of Jesus? Are we ready for Christmas? God bless.